So there are many people out there that believe that Christians don't adhere to the law, like the Ten Commandments. A lot of Judaism is centered around 613 rules and regulations, most of which have been created after Moses was on Mount Sinai when he presented the Ten Commandments. If you go through Leviticus, this is basically how Israel was supposed to live once they got into the Promised Land, and they were being constantly trained every single day with the tabernacle. You know, it would either stay in one place or it would move on to the next destination and all that kind of stuff for a period of 40 years. So they were being trained and being groomed and all this kind of stuff. So for us today, how does this apply to Christians today? Because, again, there are pockets of people that say, well, Christians just feel free to do whatever they want. They're not under the law anymore and all this kind of stuff. So I think there is a misconception there that hopefully I can tidy this up a little bit and make more sense. If you have, let's use the Ten Commandments, for example. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, all this kind of stuff. Thou shalt not have graven image, all this kind of stuff. You have this before you. You now know what the rules are, but that doesn't save you. The law doesn't save you. It just reveals the things that you are to do. And if you don't have the strength to do it, because this is an interesting thing. If you tell, it's like a child. If you tell a child, you put a jar of cookies in front of them and you say, don't touch them, and you walk away, something wells up inside of the child that starts staring at the cookie jar. It's weird. If you had the cookie jar somewhere off to the side or whatever, and the kid was not aware that there is a cookie jar, it wouldn't bug them. But until you slide the cookie jar over in front of them, and you open up the lid and you show them, you say, look at all these cookies. All of a sudden they're aroused to desire those cookies. And that's how sin is. Sin is like that. The second you put up all these rules and regulations, your sinful nature inside you wants to break all those rules. And I promise you, what happens when you become a born-again Christian is the first thing in your mind, you're like, I don't want to do anything bad. Excuse me. I don't want to sin. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Anything like this. Like you'll swear on the Bible that you're not going to do anything wrong. Again, you're like, I'm delivered. I'm not going to do anything wrong. Then something starts to pop up on the other side where it's like, well, you're now free to do whatever you want because Christ forgave everything. The slate's wiped clean. So then you start thinking, oh, I shouldn't look at porn. I shouldn't look at porn. I shouldn't look at porn. I shouldn't do it. I shouldn't drink. I shouldn't drink. I shouldn't drink. And then all of a sudden this desire that comes up out of nowhere, and you're like, man, I can't stop thinking about it. I don't understand it. I'm promising that I'm never going to drink again, and yet all of a sudden this desire is creeping up. It's a strange thing, and you can't get away from it. And Jews that are trying to follow all the 600 rules and regulations, they're not talking about the times that they break these rules, because they're pretending and they're telling you that you could follow these 613 rules. But what we as Christians are saying is the second you put those 613 rules in front of someone, a desire is going to creep up to break all those rules. So when Christ comes, it's not that he cancels the law. It's that we are forgiven, and then we look to him, and now all of a sudden that desire is minimized, if not gone. I'll say minimized because it's always lying dormant there somewhere. Like it's a weird thing. The second you say, I'm never going to sin the rest of my life. I am never going to look at a magazine with a woman on it. I'm never going to get drunk or whatever it is. The second you say that, that's when things start creeping in to your mind. It's weird. So look at it this way. This is what is this? This is like 10 puzzles. Think of this like the 10 Commandments. This is cool. I have that right here, 10 puzzles. But that doesn't mean I know exactly how to put all these puzzles together. Just because look guys, it's so easy. There's 10 right here. These are 10 puzzles. That doesn't mean that we know how to do it. So this is why we look to Jesus, because then that puzzle is solved automatically. It's solved. And there's a strange thing that happens. The more you read your Bible, the more you focus on that, there's a desire that creeps in. I say creep. There's a desire that comes in that all of a sudden you're looking at people differently. You're like, man, I should be praying for this person. Or maybe I should help out in church. Or maybe I should be kinder to my children. Maybe I should just work on myself and just be a better human being and look to Christ to help us in that. To Lord, like, how can I get to know you just a little bit better today than I did yesterday? How can I desire more things that are in regards to you? How can I get to know you better? And when you do that, when you focus in that direction, the desires go down for the other stuff. Suddenly you're like, excuse me, I don't want to watch porn. I don't want to break the rules. I don't want to break any of the laws. I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to swear. I don't want to cuss. That desire outmatches the fleshly desire. And that's what Paul's writing in the book of Romans is all about. It's Christ died for us while we were sinners. We didn't deserve anything, but he did it anyway. He died for us. So now it's just a reasonable service to serve him, not to serve the flesh, because we've died to that. Just like Jesus Christ died and rose again from the dead, same thing. We were baptized in his death, and now we're raised again unto life. That just means that we follow him. And this is a stumbling block for a lot of people, because they're like, well, you're saying you're forgetting the law and all this kind of stuff. No, we're saying it is impossible to keep the law and all the 600 rules and regulations. It's easier to follow Christ and focus on him and what he did for us. And then you naturally fulfill all those things. Like, we're not talking about washing hands and all this kind of stuff, because there's a lot of rules and regulations that Judaism follows that are just, over the years, they've added things here and there, and then eventually it got to the point where their rules and regulations were almost equal, if not more equal, than the Torah, than the 5 books of Moses. And that's the problem. And this is what Jesus was battling in his day. This is what Paul was battling against the Jews, some of the Greeks, that they had all these rules and regulations that they were putting on other people, but they themselves weren't following it. They weren't being honest. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you got something out of this as a new Christian, a new believer. And feel free to subscribe and feel free to comment. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.